Hello, everyone, and welcome in to another episode of the RTI and VR2 Recruiting Podcast. I am Nathaniel Rutherford, the managing editor of RockyTopInsider.com, joined by Brandon Martin of VR2 for this podcast. It's going to be just us two because Matt, unfortunately, is sick like a dog, and unfortunately, we were trying to do this earlier than Sunday, but just because of sicknesses and other work schedule stuff, it didn't happen. But it worked out as a blessing in disguise, Brandon, because there's been a lot of news that's happened since our original time of wanting to do this, because we've had a decommitment, slash flip, I guess you could say, and then another Tennessee commit happening. So let's get to the good news first. And it's twofold. Tennessee got a commit, and then today, just a few hours before we started recording this podcast, Amari Thomas, one of Tennessee's most recent commitments, four-star lineman out of Briarcrest over in Memphis, he announced on Twitter that he is shutting down his recruitment, and he confirmed that he is going to be signing on the early sign period. So that's going to be a big sigh of relief, Brandon, for this coaching staff. They don't have to worry about trying to fend off an Auburn or fend off any other schools that would come after Amari between December and February. He's going to be signing in December here in this upcoming week. So that's going to be a nice sigh of relief for them.
That's a huge load off of this staff, and I think one of the key players in that is not on the staff. I believe it's Jabari Small. When we talked to Jabari on Monday, he had, of course, at that time, Jabari hadn't announced that he was coming to Tennessee. He went ahead and let us know when we had interviewed with him. But Jabari told us then that he was going to be really, really hard on Big O, trying to get him to go ahead and sign. He said, as hard and as long as he's recruited me, he said, I'm going to recruit him that hard now. And so I believe Jabari played a big role in that, in getting Amari to go ahead and sign. That's a big one for Tennessee, to have that one shut down, to have him in the boat, having the name on the dotted line. Right now, Amari is their second highest rated commit on 247 behind Keyshawn Lawrence. So getting him shut down, locked up. Auburn's not coming for him. Alabama's not coming for him. It's over with. That's got to be a good feeling.
Yeah, it's a big plus. We've had a lot of guys here over the last couple weeks, a lot of the in-state guys announcing that they're shutting down their recruitments and that they're going to be signing early. You got Martavius French doing it, Tamari McDonald doing it, now Amari Thomas, Keyshawn Lawrence. So all those guys who, there's been some pushes for some guys here. We didn't mention it on the podcast last week after Jabari Small and Amari Thomas committed, but you all had it in your insider notebook stuff. There's a late push by a school especially for Jabari, actually coming in before he made his commitment. So Tennessee is going to be very happy to get these guys signed, and I think Tennessee, a lot of their current 18 commitments, I think a lot of them will sign in this earliest signing period. And one of the newest commitments, and I think they would have taken him anyway, even if without Mordecai McDaniel flipping to Florida, which we could discuss that here in a second too, but I wanted to get kind of all the good news up front here. Tennessee gets a commitment from, I'm not sure you say his first name, I think it's Doneiko Slaughter, but his last name is Slaughter. That's the important part.
Yes, it is.
It's one of the all-time greatest names. If you're a defender and your last name is Slaughter, you better bring the heat. Watching this kid's highlight film, Brandon, he brings the heat. And actually, to me, I think he's an absolute steal. I think if I'm an Arizona State fan, the school he'd been committed to for a while and then decommitted to on the day he was coming for his official visit to Tennessee on Friday, if I'm an Arizona State fan, I'm upset that he is no longer in my class, because Slaughter just recently got bumped up to a 4-star this month on Rivals, and it was a long time coming. It was well past due. He hasn't been evaluated on 247 Sports by their actual rankings since June 29th, and that was right around when he committed to Arizona State. So they haven't evaluated him since then, and he has had a stellar senior season. He's right now ranked in the 1400s on 247. That'll change dramatically by the time they actually get a chance to reevaluate him. But he's a 4-star on Rivals. I think we could have this conversation once Tennessee wraps up, kind of the earliest signing period and maybe their class in general. But I would put him and Jalen Hyatt, in my opinion, as two of the biggest steals in this class for Tennessee, just based on, they're not maybe ranked as high as a lot of other guys at their position. They maybe not have thought of as well as other guys at their position, but I truly think they can come in and make maybe not as huge of an impact in their first year, but I think their careers will be very strong. Because I look at Slaughter as a guy who I think needs to add a little bit more to his frame. But Brandon, I know you and I both were talking in our group chat along with Matt about his tape and stuff. Slaughter's tape is really, really good. It's not 5-star level good, but it is definitely an absolute 4-star, top 200 in my opinion type level recruit. Who he has really good awareness, really good lateral movement. His timed 40 is a 4.65. I was surprised when I saw that because he's not a burner by any means, but I think he moves better and quicker than a 4.65 40 guy. I just think this guy is really good. He has a strong football IQ. He makes plays on defense, makes plays on special teams. I think early on as a freshman, you'll see him on special teams for Tennessee because I think he's just a guy that I don't really know. Barring injury, I don't know that you're going to be able to keep him off the field in some capacity as a freshman.
I think the most important thing when you're talking about Slaughter and talking about his game is don't watch his highlight film unless you want to watch a few murders, because this kid he's the hardest hitter in this class right now, and one of the hardest hitters I think Tennessee's pulled in a while. I mean, this kid will lay you out,
and he doesn't do it where he just kind of like video game lowers a shoulder and kills you. He does it with wrap up tackle. I mean, he does it when he just full on grabs you. Like he doesn't do what early Nigel Warrior was doing when he was just kind of going for the big hit. He does kind of what older, now senior Nigel Warrior would do, and that would be wrapping you up and actually bring you down to the ground violently.
Yes, that the violently is the important thing you have to tack on to the end of that. He does it clean. He's smart. He's not going to get hit with a lot of targeting calls. It's like you said, it's a very clean wrap-up tackle, but good Lord, he will hit you. Some safeties break up plays by having really good ball skills, going up for an interception, trying to knock the ball down. Slaughter opts to, as his name I think compels him to do, break passes up by knocking down the receiver, and he's really good at it. Mm-hmm. I do agree with you. I would love to see him timed again. He plays a lot faster than that 4.65. I don't know how old that time is, and I don't know what camp they got it at. He certainly looks faster than that on film. He may just be one of those guys that plays faster in pads than he does when he's running in shorts, but he's a good cover safety. Like you said, he's got good instincts. I believe he's able to read defenders well. I think Tennessee's getting a steal. On Rivals, it's interesting. You said, his tape's absolutely 4-star, top 200 in the nation. That's exactly where Rivals has him ranked. When 247 reevaluates their rankings, he's going to fly up the boards. Mm-hmm. His senior tape is excellent. And I think Tennessee's going to have a really hard time keeping him off the field. He's going to play somewhere. He's too good not to. He's going to play in some role. I think there's a really good chance of seeing he and Jalen McCullough probably playing together quite a bit.
I think Tennessee has two really good defensive backs in this class with him and Keyshawn Lawrence. Lawrence is just an exceptional athlete. I think Lawrence is probably the better athlete of the two, of Slaughter and Lawrence. But I think both those guys have, especially with this coaching staff and how good they are at developing defensive backs and coaching defensive backs and what they do, I think Lawrence and Slaughter have particularly bright futures at Tennessee.
I completely agree with you. I mean, you're talking about, with Pruitt and Ansley, two of the best defensive back coaches in the entire country over the last, 10 years more? I mean,
probably.
These guys are outstanding defensive back coaches. They know what the raw materials look like. They know how to shape it. They know how to get the most out of them. And they've done it for years. And you're talking about bringing in two huge quality pieces in Keyshawn Lawrence and Doneiko Slaughter. It's interesting, and the reason that I mentioned Slaughter playing with Jalen McCullough, I think is something we're potentially going to see a lot next year. Slaughter's a safety. Period. The end. Mm-hmm. Slaughter's a safety. He is. In recent years in modern football, you've kind of seen that role of what used to be a free safety and a strong safety kind of blur. You don't see those guys be as distinctly different as you used to. You see more guys that kind of have to be able to do everything. And Slaughter can cover. He's a good cover safety, but he definitely tends more toward the old strong safety mold. Coming up, he's a good tackler. He's a good hitter. He's very good in run support. But he's better in coverage than a lot of those old school guys. Keyshawn is going to be interesting because Tennessee's pretty stacked at safety right now. Even with the graduation of Nigel Warrior, and that's going to hurt because I think Pro Football Focus had him ranked as an All-American. I believe it was PFF that had Nigel as an All-American this year.
Yeah, he was. I think an All-American honorable mention, but either way, he was right up there. Yeah.
I believe I know he was at least on the PFF All-American radar.
Yeah, right.
And when you're talking about a guy like that, that's really impressive when you figure in how rough the start of the season was for Nigel. But then you look at this safety class that Tennessee's got in this group of safeties they've got. This is a loaded position group before Doneiko Slaughter comes in. You're adding Slaughter. You still have Jalen McCullough. Trayvon Flowers is going to be back next year after that broken leg. Theo Jackson has played at times this year and has played well. Mm-hmm. And Tennessee's had Tyus Fields listed at safety for a lot of this year. Now, we're going to talk about the flip that Tennessee had of Mordecai McDaniel in depth a little bit more here in a minute. But even though Mordecai had been originally listed as a safety, it became apparent as the season went on, and when you looked at his tape and looked at his skill set, Tennessee was looking at Mordecai as a corner. That was the plan for him. He was the burner. He was the speedster, and was going to be probably playing corner for Tennessee. I think Keyshawn Lawrence is able to play corner. He's an incredible athlete. I think Keyshawn's ceiling is higher at safety. But now with Mordecai gone and Doneiko being that true pure safety, I think Lawrence is definitely going to get a lot more work at corner. Or Tennessee may potentially look at moving one of the other safeties they've got, because you've got a lot of talented players right now on this roster if you're Tennessee at safety. And it's a bit of a log jam, really, because you can only play 2, maybe 3 guys unless someone gets hurt. You're going to have some really talented players on the bench right now if you're Tennessee, which is a nice problem to have. It's one we've not had in a long time. But when you've still got needs at safety, somebody's going to get a look. I think the guy who may get the look there is going to be Tyus Fields.
Yeah.
Fields was a corner when he came out of high school in North Carolina. He was he played a lot of nickel corner.
Yes, he did. Mm-hmm.
I really think that's his best position. I think he's even better there than as a safety because he's so good against the run. He's a big corner. He tackles well, even takes on blocks well and fights through them. But this was a high 4-star corner, really good cover skills. He was one of those guys that you looked at and you went, he can play any position in the defensive secondary. We can put him anywhere and he's going to be good. And I think maybe you see him get some more work at corner than safety this spring camp. I think maybe Tennessee addresses the McDaniel flip by moving Keyshawn out there. Somebody's out of this safety group is going to have to spend a little more time at corner now because they need another corner. I think it's going to be Tyus or Keyshawn. I'd like to see Keyshawn get to stay at safety because I think his ceiling's higher there. But he can play corner. I mean, he absolutely can play corner. My only concern is going to be when he has to square off against really elite speed.
Yeah, and I'm looking through because I remembered I did an interview with Tyus Fields' high school coach, try to find his name, Matt Jenkins, over at North Carolina, and I talked with him about kind of the versatility that Tyus brought to the defense. He said Jenkins said Fields played cornerback as a freshman and sophomore and was used as a tailback, but then later he didn't play on offense and he made another position change on defense. The actual quote here from Coach Jenkins about Tyus Fields was, after our first game, we moved him to safety and he played free safety for us. Tyus had 92 tackles from that spot for us last year. I think he can play corner at the next level, and I think he can play nickel all day long at the next level. I think Tennessee is getting in him is that they have a young man who gives them so much versatility in what he can do. If he comes in as a freshman and isn't a starter at corner, he gives you a guy that you can put out at nickel and play man coverage with him. He's extremely physical in the run game and can contribute right away that way. I don't know if there's a natural spot for him, but he's one of the better corners I've seen. And I know this. When we needed to shut down a guy, all we had to do was put Fields on him, and there's not any concern anymore. He has the ability to be a shutdown corner, but he may be more natural at a nickel spot. So even his high school coach talked about, being able to play kind of multiple roles and being able to play that nickel spot. So I agree with you there about, I think Tyus Fields is a very interesting prospect. I liked him a lot when Tennessee got him, and I think he had an injury early on and wasn't able to contribute maybe as much this year as a true freshman, but he's a guy that I think you're going to watch this upcoming season start to take those steps, and as long as he stays healthy, I think you're going to start to see some things click for him, and I think Tyus Fields could be a guy to watch for this year, because he's made some plays on special teams when he's been healthy. So I agree with you. I think Tennessee's defensive backfield, especially the safety, is pretty loaded right now with a lot of young, a lot of question marks, a lot of unproven talent, but still quite a bit of talent there. Brandon, we've hinted at it here a little bit. Let's go ahead and get to it. Mordecai McDaniel flipping to Florida. I think, I'm not going to try to downplay it and say that, no, Tennessee didn't want him and that it's not as big of a deal because he flipped, and try to act like it's not a big deal, because I like Mordecai. I think from an actual player perspective, from their senior film and stuff, I think Slaughter has a little bit better of a senior film than McDaniel. But Mordecai's a fast kid. That kid has really good speed. We talked about that when he committed. He has really good track speed. McDaniel is a good athlete. How big of a blow is it that he, not only is no longer part of Tennessee's class, but that he has flipped to the rival Gators?
Well, don't get it twisted. Tennessee wanted Mordecai McDaniel. Mm-hmm. This is not the case of Tennessee. This was not, we're letting Mordecai walk and going to get Doneiko Slaughter because we like him better. It was, we really would have liked to have had Mordecai playing corner and Doneiko Slaughter playing safety, and by getting Slaughter, feeling really comfortable about Mordecai slotting in just at corner. That was the change there. Tennessee wanted Mordecai because Mordecai can handle elite speed. He is a superb track athlete. He has able to win NCAA track meet Division I speed. I mean, he can fly. It's a loss for Tennessee. I don't think it is as big a loss as it would have been maybe earlier in the season, because now you do have Slaughter, and the thing that Slaughter does is what we were just talking about. By landing Nico Slaughter, who is a pure safety, you're going to keep him at safety. That's where he's going to play, and he should play early. He's going to be a big impact safety. That gives you the ability to feel better about taking a guy like Tyus Fields or Keyshawn Lawrence and going, okay, we're going to put you at corner, and we're going to let you work over here if we feel like we really need someone else. It allows you to do that and not feel like you're hurting your safety position. So I do think that mitigated the loss of McDaniel a lot. But McDaniel was the big corner in this class. He was the guy they felt like could play corner, had the speed to really develop into dealing with the elite speed you see in the SEC from, if you're Tennessee right now, those Alabama receivers. Mordecai is the guy who's going to handle those guys. Now, the thought about him going to the rival Gators, it hurts Tennessee that he's not here. Of course, it hurts Tennessee that he's at Florida, but I don't think it's going to hurt Tennessee that much. I don't think Mordecai is a guy Tennessee is going to see a whole lot. There was always the kind of fear of the Gators in the back of the mind because Mordecai had family in Gainesville. That was always a concern, is does he flip to Florida? We know Florida wants him. We know he's interested in Florida. And honestly, I'm really surprised Florida took Mordecai. And that's not a knock on Mordecai and his ability to play at all, because I'm like you. I like him a lot. I think he's a very good player, and I would have loved for Tennessee to have gotten him. But Florida's already got like 6 defensive backs in this class after taking, I think, 5 defensive backs last year, and 3 or 4 of the guys they have right now are rated ahead of Mordecai, and I don't see him getting on the field at Florida a lot unless he really overperforms or several guys in front of him get hurt. I mean, he's pretty buried in the depth chart down in Gainesville and Knoxville. Now, he would have faced the same problem in Knoxville if he'd stayed at safety, but again, that wasn't the plan. They wanted to put him at corner, and I mean, he probably would have started games this year for Tennessee at corner if Alontae Taylor, it depends on which Alontae Taylor you got in camp. Mm-hmm. But if Alontae had continued to struggle, I mean, I wouldn't have been stunned at all to see Mordecai start a few games at Tennessee this year at corner. So it hurts that you don't have him, but I don't think he's somebody who's going to haunt you when you play the Gators regularly, unless he really overperforms or a lot of guys get hurt in front of him, or Florida does what they did last year and a fifth of their class can't get eligible or gets run out of school before fall camp starts. And I know that's funny. I know you laugh, but I mean, they lost, 6-7 guys last year?
Yeah, they lost quite a bit, yeah.
I mean, they lost a huge chunk of their class because of off-field issues, couldn't get eligible, couldn't get into school, arrests and things. I mean, they lost 5 or 6, I think 6 guys last year before camp even started that never even practiced for them, that were big parts of their class. And unless you see something like that again, I really don't see Mordecai getting a lot of playing time, at least for a couple years down in Gainesville.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at the numbers game, and like you said, Florida lost a ton of guys from last year's class. I don't know that they're in that same situation this year where they're banking, or it's still early. We're to the earliest I am here. We're not to the actual national signing day yet either, but I don't know that they're banking their as many guys in this class on potential as far as can we get them in. I think last year you had a lot of taking risks in Dan Mullen's class. I don't know that they're taking as many risks with this specific class, but I'm also not as up to date and as in tune with Florida's recruiting class like I am Tennessee's. But Tennessee should be able to get all their guys in. I think all the guys that are currently committed to Tennessee are in good grade standing. I don't think anybody's struggling grade-wise. I think the only one you'd worry about academically, and that is if Tennessee takes him, if he does commit to Tennessee, would be a guy like Desmond Tisdall. But we'll talk a little bit about that later on this week. We're planning on doing a podcast for you guys on Tuesday to get you ready for all the early signing day stuff, because Tennessee has a lot of targets ready to make their announcements on Wednesday and Thursday. I think maybe 1 or 2 on Friday, but most of them are on Wednesday and Thursday, or when they're making their announcements. So we'll have a podcast for you on Tuesday, kind of breaking all that down and looking at some of these guys and maybe where they're leaning and all this stuff. But Brandon, before we get to some visitors this past weekend, the one of the big, I guess, sad news is that the pipe dream is over. Tate Ratledge announces that he is going to be shutting down his recruitment and that he is not going to be visiting other schools, and he's going to sign with Georgia. Like I said, that was it was a dream. It was one that I talked about last podcast that I really wanted to see happen, but I figured it wouldn't happen. I assume a lot of all fans felt the same way, but is officially now closed. And Brandon, I guess we can close a chapter of that book that Tate ain't coming back. He's going to stick with the Bulldogs.
Well, it was always a bit of a long shot. It really looked like, for a stretch last week, it looked like Tennessee was going to manage to get him on campus for a visit.
Yeah.
It really looked there were probably about 2 or 3 days there, especially 2 days in the middle of the week. It really sounded like Tate was going to be coming to Knoxville this weekend for an official visit, and had that happened, that would have altered the whole thing. But Georgia got the same thing with Tate that Tennessee got with Amari Thomas. They got him to sign early. They got him convinced. He decided to stay. Decided to shut it down. And good on them. They quickly hired a good offensive line coach who knows how to recruit, who knows how to recruit the SEC, and is well respected in Matt Luke. And if you were going to replace Sam Pittman, that's kind of the way you needed to go. And they brought in a guy in Luke who I think shares a lot of similarities with Sam Pittman. And I think it was a really smart hire by Georgia. Kirby Smart didn't waste any time bringing Matt Luke in. Luke has immediately hit the ground running, recruiting his butt off, and he was one of the guys that helped get Tate to stay. So that was a good job by Georgia, not letting Tennessee get back in the picture there. While we're talking about, are they going to sign early? Are they going to sign in February? Can you get back in? That pipe dream is off the table, but it sounds like we have another one to offer Tennessee fans, because hope springs eternal in the orange and white, I suppose. It sounds like this Jay Hardy sweepstakes is not over.
I was going to bring that up. Yep.
It sounds like this Jay Hardy sweepstakes is not over unless it changes, and it's recruiting. It can change in a heartbeat. I think it's changed 3 or 4 times already. Jay has gone back and forth between I'm going to sign early, I'm going to sign in February. The original plan was I'm going to sign in February. Then Auburn started wanting to get him to sign early. And he wasn't going to. And there was a very brief period where he said, No, I'm going to sign early. Then he changed his mind. It was late again. Then it was for a good stretch of last week. It sounded like he was going to sign early. Now it sounded like he's going to wait till February. And it sounds like his mind's pretty made up that he's going to wait till February. But we've thought that before. Jay is a guy that we've watched pretty close. We've especially, I say we, but especially Dale and Matt have got really good relationships with Jay. They've covered him a lot closer than I've gotten to. We're trying to stay as up on that one as we can. It's a bit of a challenge right now, but if that one goes to February, that will be really interesting. If that one goes to February, that could come down to the wire. And what could make things really difficult for Auburn's not going to have a lot of room left in their class. Auburn right now. Auburn has put together a really impressive, really good class, but there's not a lot of maneuverability in it left. The numbers are really starting to squeeze down on Auburn, and several of their big targets are waiting until later to sign. If things go the way Tennessee wants them to, Tennessee is going to be just about done by Friday of this coming week. They should have, if things go the way they want them to, they should have most of their 25 scholarships. Most of those guys are going to be signed on the dotted line, letter of intent's done, and ready to go. Where that becomes a real issue for a team like Auburn is if Auburn's still trying to pull in 5, 6, 7 guys that they got to fight down the wire for, and you're Tennessee going, I've got 3 scholarships left, and one of the guys that I've got a spot for is Jay Hardy, and I really, really want Jay Hardy, then I can turn the whole staff on this.
Mm-hmm.
I can devote a full third or more of my staff and my time between now and National Signing Day. I can pour all kinds of resources and effort into Jay Hardy because I don't have a whole lot of other guys I got to worry about. Most of the rest of this class is nailed down and finished, and that's where I'm going to go and who I'm going to go after. That could really be an issue for Auburn. That's part of the reason I think Auburn wanted to sign Jay early. They wanted it done. They wanted them locked up anyway. But I think they realized that if Tennessee has a strong early signing period and doesn't have many scholarships left, they are really going to come hard for Hardy down the stretch. So that one's going to be one to watch. If he puts it off till February, that recruitment's going to be a war until February.
Yeah, looking at Auburn's class, they currently have 20 guys committed. And as a side note here, I didn't realize how many kind of JUCO heavy their class is. They have 4 junior college guys committed to them in this class. I didn't realize that they were kind of looking for so many kind of instant impact guys. And most of them, besides Marco Domio, most of their JUCO guys aren't exactly rated highly as junior college prospects. But that's just kind of as an aside there. But yeah, they're at 20 right now. Tank Bigsby, the 5-star running back, is their headliner, along with Kobe Hudson, receiver, and then Wesley Steiner, that linebacker, who's a top 100 kid as well, and then Jay Hardy right there, right around the number 100 spot. So yeah, I'm glad you brought up Jay Hardy. I was going to bring him up because we were talking about guys and kind of pipe dreams, and Tennessee is still trying to get in on them, and that's going to be, like you said, that could change any moment. You hate to use the cliche, but recruiting is fluid, especially this time of year. It always is, but this time of year, when you have the earliest signing period, and then the National Signing Day and stuff too, it is also very fluid then too. Brandon, we have Tennessee had a lot of visitors coming this weekend for the last official visiting weekend of this signing period before the before the dead period happens. Tennessee had a lot of guys, but no one more high profile than 5-star Darnell Washington. Have you had a chance to? Obviously, I think as we're recording this, he's actually still on campus. So I don't know how much more. We really haven't heard anything about his visit yet. I don't know if we will until maybe tonight or something like that. But I think I'm going to stick to my guns, and I'm going to say he still commits to the Vols or signs with the Vols. Because I think right now his plan, correct me if I'm wrong, I think his plan is to sign somewhere in the early signing period, but then not announce it until January 2nd, which that was also apparently what Quavaris Crouch was going to try to do last year, but then didn't work out, and he ended up announcing what he was doing during the early signing period. Kind of announcing it because he's planning on signing and then announcing later. But the plan currently right now is for Darnell to sign somewhere and then announce later. Is that correct?
Yeah, Darnell's plan right now is to sign somewhere during the early signing period, under cover of night, in greatest secrecy, and to then go and announce where he's going to play while he's at the Under Armour All-American game in Orlando on January 2nd. That is what Quavaris Crouch wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out that some of the fans of the news agencies for these teams that Crouch and Washington are interested in are really good at finding out about those letters.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to have a hard time keeping that quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
it's
glad
happened because Tennessee, not to this extreme, but I remember during the first early signing period when Pruitt was first hired, you had Jameer Johnson. He signed at the early signing period, but he didn't announce until like a week after the early signing period that he actually had signed. So it's happened with Tennessee before, but that's obviously, he was a junior college kind of high 3-star or low 4-star. He wasn't a 5-star athlete like Darnell Washington, so he wasn't nearly the type of high profile kid. But it has happened with Tennessee before, and it's happened with other guys. But like you said, it's just very difficult because there was pressure and a lot of stuff with Crouch. That's why he ended up going and announcing it, because it was being leaked by a lot of different people about different stuff. And I'll never forget Crouch's recruitment, because you had that graphic from some Michigan site come out of, or maybe Michigan themselves. I don't remember who it was now, but some way a graphic of him committing to Michigan came out all of a sudden, and everyone was like, "Wait a minute, what's going on?" And then it comes out, obviously he didn't commit to Michigan. So I'll never forget Crouch's recruitment, because that was just a weird, bizarre turn that took.
Washington's recruitment has reminded me a lot of Crouch.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Crouch, and there's a lot of Henry To'oTo'o in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is just going to be moose recruitments. I think if we put Brian Niedermeyer on somebody and he realizes he's got a shot, I think it's just going to be nuts. That's just how it's going to be. That's how this is going to go. Niedermeyer is, in my opinion, I think Niedermeyer is the big reason that Tennessee is in the position they're in with Darnell Washington. I think Tennessee has the added advantage over teams like Georgia and a couple of others that are really interested in Washington, in that as good a recruiter as Niedermeyer is, and he managed it with Quavaris Crouch, managed it with Henry To'oTo'o. He was huge on both of those guys, but he wasn't going to be their position coach.
Right, yes.
Brian Niedermeyer is going to be Darnell Washington's position coach.
And Washington loves Brian Niedermeyer. He loves him.
He does, and what we always say in recruiting, what we always come back to, follow the visits, follow the relationships. Now, recruiting's fluid, recruiting's nuts, it's high school kids, nobody always and nevers. There are as many exceptions to rules as there are rules, but for the most part, for the majority of the time, even with high-profile kids, even in weird recruitments, if you follow the visits and follow the relationships, you're going to get you get a good idea of where a kid's going to go. You can forecast that and feel pretty good about it. Washington's been to Tennessee several times. He's on his official there now. Tennessee got the last official, which is big.
Yep.
He has a fantastic relationship with Niedermeyer. Niedermeyer's going to be his position coach. Niedermeyer, reigning recruiter of the year. You know he can do this. There's an immediate need there. There's immediate playing time. You've seen flashes with Dominic Wood-Anderson of what you could potentially be if you were Washington. There's a place for him in that offense. You're bringing in a guy in Harrison Bailey that is used to having that dynamic kind of wide receiver tight end in Eric Gilbert.
Mm-hmm.
You know he's going to look for you. You know they're going to make that a bigger part of the offense, and Harrison's going to be adept at running it. By the way, quick aside, congratulations to the Marietta Blue Devils for winning the 7A state championship in Georgia last night.
Mm-hmm. And congratulations to Jalen Hyatt for winning it last week.
Congratulations, Jan, for his fourth one in a row.
Yes. Yeah.
Started that game with an 80-yard touchdown catch, ended it with the touchdown catch to win it in overtime.
Yeah, that's what a way to bookend the game.
That kid is a bad man, and I can't wait to get him on campus. But my love affair with Jalen Hyatt and his game is well documented on this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Back to the matter at hand. I'm with you. I think Tennessee's in a really good spot with Washington. I know it's not getting the national kind of attention, and Tennessee's kind of an afterthought. But this feels so much like when Tennessee was after Quavaris Crouch. It feels like Henry To'oTo'o, and I just think Tennessee's going to find a way to get it done. Maybe he goes to Georgia. Maybe he makes a monkey out of all of us, but Tennessee has made him a huge priority. He has to know that. I think they flew almost the whole staff out there to Las Vegas the first day they could have contact with recruits. They moved Knoxville west for the day as far as the coaching staff goes to show up for his in-home. You've had everybody out there. Niedermeyer's been on him. It just feels like Tennessee's going to find a way to get this done. And it would be a disappointment if they didn't. He's a guy that they would really like to get. They're fighting Georgia and Alabama, among many, many others for him. But I feel the same way you do. It just feels like it's lining up for Tennessee to pull this off.
Well, Brandon, to kind of close out the podcast here, I want to play a game with you. We want to talk about numbers. We talked about last week. We want to do that for the second podcast, and then we kept pushing back the time, so we didn't get to maybe have the discussion we wanted to on it. But I'm going to play a little game with you about these numbers and stuff. I know you've done the homework. I haven't had a chance to do as much as I would have liked to have done, but I know you had a lot of stuff where you looked at, how the numbers and stuff could play out. I'm going to name off a guy's name, and I want you to tell me if you think he's a take for Tennessee's class. And we don't have to go in depth with it. Just you can give a couple sentences why you think so, and I'll give my answer too. But I'm gonna list off a few guys' names, and I'll have you say if you think it's a take, and then I'll say if I think it's a take. First one up, Desmond Tisdall. Take or no take?
Absolutely a take.
I agree with you. I think if there's room, you're taking him. But I was going to say Len'neth Whitehead, but he's definitely a take in my opinion. I don't think he's a question mark there. How about Khari Coleman?
I think Khari Coleman is a take if Morven Joseph flips his trend. Right now, Tennessee came into the weekend trending really, really strongly with Morven Joseph, who had decommitted from Florida State. Florida State got him on campus for a visit this weekend, and got that last visit. If Florida State can flip Joseph back in the boat, I think Khari Coleman's a guy that Tennessee looks at. I think Tennessee trying to get Jamari Butler back in the boat becomes a big priority then too. But if you get Joseph, if you get some of the other guys you're after, I think Khari Coleman is a take if you miss.
Yeah, it'd be interesting about Jamari Butler if Morven, like you said, he went to the official visit for Florida State. So that is interesting. How about, it looks like this is also trending in a weird direction too, but how about Vi Cajo?
I
didn't say it was going to be an easy game.
No, you didn't. Take or not a take?
By the way, I agree with you about Khari. I think he's a take if Morven doesn't come in. Even if Morven comes in, I almost wonder if he's still a take. I think this staff really likes Khari Coleman, so I think he's a take potentially no matter what, but definitely if Joseph isn't in this class.
This staff really, really, really likes Vi Cajo. They really like Vi Cajo. But with the other linebackers Tennessee's looking at right now and the needs in other places, I think he's going to not be a take.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep. I think this staff does like him, and unless they miss out on both Tisdall, and I know Whitehead, he's looking at it as a running back, but unless they miss out on both Tisdall and Whitehead, I think Cajo, as you said, he just might not be a part of this class. The last one I can think of for sure that I wanted to discuss, and that is Reginald Perry.
Very, very similar to Khari Coleman. I think the staff really likes him. I think he's a good athlete. I think he's a take if they miss on someone else. I wouldn't be surprised to see Tennessee try to get him to push back his announcement if they think they can. But if maybe Octavius Oxendine goes a different way or they don't feel as strong there, I think they take him anyway. I think Tennessee has to feel like somebody a little higher on their board is going somewhere else. But I think he's a take if you can fit him in, he's a take.
That's kind of where I feel. I think they have Ox a little bit higher on their board, but right now Ox is he's another one of those guys where his recruitment's been difficult to follow. I think him and Morven Joseph right now, and actually Len'neth Whitehead, Those are the kind of the three biggest question marks for me heading into Tennessee's early signing period as far as guys who are supposed to be announcing during it. But like I said, we'll kind of break that down more further on the Tuesday podcast, because Tennessee has a ton of guys. You got those three. You got Tyler Barron, who's announcing his commitment. You've got a few other guys who are announcing their commitments. Yeah, Perry's announcing his commitment. You have several guys who Tennessee is targeting. Tisdall is another one. Ramon Henderson, who's a receiver who Tennessee has been targeting, he's announcing it on the 18th as well. So you've got a lot of guys on the 18th and 19th who Tennessee has been going after, who are supposed to be announcing during the earliest signing period. But we'll break that down a little bit further, like I said, on the next podcast that will be coming out for you. And hopefully Matt is back to full health, or at least good enough health to be joining us next time. But Brandon, let everybody know what they can find on VR2, because I know you guys obviously have been looking at all the recruiting stuff this past weekend of Tennessee getting commits and everything. But what do you guys have coming down the wire at VR2?
Come over to VR2.site, especially with this early signing period come up. As we hear anything about these visits, where guys stand coming off the official visits, not just the guys visiting Tennessee, but Tennessee targets going elsewhere. Morven Joseph's going to be a big one that gets mentioned a lot. We're going to be posting that up as quickly as we can. We're going to have some interviews lined up for you. We've been in contact with a lot of guys coming up to signing day. Once signing day hits, we're going to be trying to live stream as many commitments as we can get to. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people how many we can get to. We're going to be doing a lot of driving. We're going to get to as many commitments as we can get to, and announcements we can get to on signing during the early signing period, all 3 days that we're able to make something. So if you want the live streams, if you want the commitment interviews, if you want the analysis pieces on the guys that Tennessee's going to be able to sign, follow us on Twitter _VR2 _. You can find us on Facebook at VR2. Same on Instagram. We're VR2.site. That's the website. You can jump in there, follow all this coverage, all these articles. Our premium notebook is $3 a month. I promise you, if you care about Tennessee recruiting, we try to pack as much content into that as we possibly can every single week. Sometimes we do more than one a week. You'll be the first ones to know about things that we find out from coaches, parents of players, from the recruits themselves. We pull in a lot of interesting things in there that stay in there that I think the people who really enjoy recruiting will like to know. And then we also have our team coverage for football and basketball on VR2.site as well. So give us a follow, go take a look, and I promise you nobody's going to be on top of it this week like we are.
I agree. You guys are going to be killing it, not just in the analytical stuff, but like you said, just where you guys are going to be. You're going to be all over the place. We here at RockyTopInsider.com will have plenty of analysis stuff. We won't be we'll be leaning on you guys for kind of the interviews and stuff like that, but I can guarantee you I'm going to have a lot of stuff up on the side about recruiting this week. I'll probably have here Sunday evening, I would have to say, maybe a Christmas wish list for Tennessee recruiting. Talk about the early signing period and what they'd like to get done and who they like to get in the boat and whatnot. So I'll have that up there. But also I'll be looking at kind of this class, the needs they have before the early signing period. Kind of I'll have a schedule up of who all is committing when, and then after the early signing period's over, kind of looking at what Tennessee has left, who's left on their board, and then kind of their biggest needs remaining in this class. And after that too, once you have the early signing period that's over, you're gonna see obviously the efforts of trying to get some 2020 guys to still come and visit and whatnot between now and February. This is actually in late December, early January. That's kind of where you start seeing a lot of 2021, the next class start getting a lot of attention, a lot of offers sent out. So it'll be exciting to kind of cover and see what the 2021 class is shaping up and looking like, because Tennessee already has a few guys in their 2021 class I'm kind of excited about. I haven't followed the next class as much yet because I usually try to focus on just one class at a time. I'm not a big future gazer into the next class, but I know for a fact some of the guys Tennessee has committed and who they're going after in this junior class. It's a pretty strong start for Tennessee right now with who they have and some guys they're currently in with that are in with good right now. So we'll cover that obviously in a future date, but we'll have all your early signing period needs. Our next podcast, we hope you appreciated and listened and liked this one. You can find all of our stuff at Rocky Top Insider on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please give this video a like. We appreciate that very much. If you have anything you want us to cover in the next podcast that you're afraid we might not, please leave us a question, leave us a comment on the YouTube video or on our social media. Like I said, at Rocket Top Insider on Twitter, at RTI Recruiting, and they are at _VR2 _. Signing off for Brandon, I am Nathaniel. Thank you all again. Until next time, this has been another episode of the RTI and VR2 Recruiting Podcast.